Happy Friday, Bears fans. Jam-packed show coming up. But before we get to it, Chase Sr. and I, he's the host of the 49ers Report, are having a subscriber challenge here in the year of 2022. They've got a bit of a jump on us. 9,600 or so subs so far this year. Bears now is at 7,200. We've been closing the gap after he had a strong January when the Niners went on that deep playoff run. No playoff games for the Bears, but he's got a lead on us, and we got to close that gap. If you want free daily Chicago Bears news and rumors video, make it a competition and subscribe today, and we will continue to plug out shows on a daily basis. You're watching Chicago Bears Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Appreciate you guys for clicking on today's show. And hey, after signing Tavon Young and Ryan Griffin on Thursday night, another signing could be happening soon as well. Brad Biggs reports that veteran linebacker Anthony Hitchens was on a visit at Halas Hall on Thursday. Hitchens played under coach Matt Eberflus when he was in Dallas. And this is something we've talked about before. Hitchens played in Dallas when Eberflus was the linebackers coach. And Hitchens has ties to Ryan Poles as well, obviously spending the last several years in Kansas City. This is a veteran linebacker that I thought could be a target for this team. Hadn't thought about him as much recently after they signed Nicholas Morrow, but I still think he could be a fit. And here's why. If you bring in Anthony Hitchens, I think you plug him at middle linebacker. He's your Mike. Roquan Smith plays the will, which is where I want him to play anyway. And then Nick Morrow, who's coming off an injury-riddled season anyway, he can be your Sam linebacker, kind of your coverage guy that can play on obvious passing downs as well. This would not be a bad unit. I think this trio would actually be pretty solid overall. Hitchens, Morrow kind of rotate in and out. Roquan Smith obviously playing every single down regardless of nickel packages or standard 4-3 schemes. I think this could be solid. And Anthony Hitchens, classic, third, fourth wave of free agency guy. You can get him on the cheap. Not what he once was, but still a veteran linebacker who should be better than a guy like Alec Ogletree was a year ago. So what do you guys think? Will the Bears sign Anthony Hitchens? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I feel like there's a pretty good chance they will, especially if the price is right. Let's get into our Bears rumors roundup now as we continue here on today's episode of Bears Now. How about trading for Deebo Samuel as, hey, if you're not the Niners, every team's fan base is talking about this. One smoking Jay. I mean, it's not hard to see what this regime is doing. They're not taking big swings right now, but hey, you never say never, right? I mean, this team traded Khalil Mack. Deebo Samuel's a young player, which obviously they want to get younger. Bears Twitter, I've seen this circulate over the past day or so because Samuel unfollowed the 49ers a couple nights ago, and then yesterday he wiped his Instagram account of all 49ers-related posts. And listen, fan bases all across the league are saying, hey, go trade for Deebo, and I don't blame you guys because he's a hell of a talent. He's young. He's explosive. He's one of the best pure offensive football players in the NFL. Obviously, we would all love Deebo Samuel in Chicago, right? Like, I'd be an idiot to say otherwise. But if I had to rank the teams who have a chance of actually getting him, the Bears would not be near the top of that list because they don't have a first-round pick. And this regime is not going all in on 2022. However, Deebo could be a long-term play as well because he is still very young as he's on the final year of his rookie contract. He obviously does a lot of things really well. I mean, the year he had last year for San Francisco, over 1,400 yards receiving of 18 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. They got him involved as a running back as well in the second half of the year due to some injuries, and he was great in that role, had 8 touchdowns on the ground, 6.2 yards per carry. Deebo Samuel is a do-it-all superstar, but again, kind of like the DK Metcalf conversation. I won't completely rule it out, but it's going to cost a lot to trade for him, and then you're going to have to pay him $20, $25 million per year, probably closer to 25, the way the wide receiver market continues to increase. Would you try to trade for Deebo? You're Ryan Poles. You're in charge. Let me know. Type T for trade. Type P for pass. Look, there's no harm in making a phone call, right? And seeing A, if he's available, and B, what the price would be. So let me know. T for trade or P for pass. Again, he would obviously be a game changer. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf. I mean, all these guys linked to trades. Tyreek Hill getting traded. Devontae Adams. There's a reason teams want these guys because they change offenses, and Deebo Samuel would do absolutely that. And again, you need another receiver on this depth chart. Darnell Mooney, a good player. I think he could be a wide receiver 1 this year, as he had over 1,000 yards last year. But Byron Pringle, I love him as a number 3. Number 2, it feels like a stretch. He's never really been that. We'll see if he ends up being that this year. I think the Bears will probably end up drafting somebody. Equanimeous St. Brown, you want him as a wide receiver 4 or 5 and so forth. So if you add one more guy in there and push everybody back a slot, then you're feeling a lot better at this position. Last thought on Deebo is I fully expect the Niners to pay up. That is a team trying to win right now, probably transitioning to Trey Lance this year from Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't want to take your best offensive weapon away from a young quarterback if you're San Francisco. So, hey, check in if you're Ryan Poles, but at the end of the day, one smoking Jay, pretty unlikely that the Bears could actually go get Deebo Samuel. Now, name a player that the Bears should go out and trade for. Maybe more realistic guys, like an Andre Dillard from Philadelphia. I think he'd be a solid tackle option that you could go out and get. If you have another name you're thinking about, let me know. Name a player that you think the Bears should go out and get. Today's show brought to you by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. And hey, you can go bet on NFC North odds for next year already with BetUS. Get going today. Chatsports.com/Bears. Promo code is BEARDOWN. That is promo code BEARDOWN to get a 125% deposit bonus. No surprise, Packers are the early favorites at -200. Minnesota Vikings at +300. Bears all the way down at +750. Hey, just throw a little tenner down, 10 to win 75. Weirder things have happened. Lions down at +1200 if you're feeling like you think Detroit's going to win. Don Burr, I know you're watching. If you want to go put money on the Lions, chatsports.com/Bears. Promo code is BEARDOWN. Next up on our rumors roundup, how about signing Quinton Spain, the veteran guard, in free agency? I'll elevate this one to 2 smoking Jays. People are talking. I think this is definitely more of a possibility than trading for Deebo because A, is a free agent, and B, going to be a lot cheaper than a guy like Deebo Samuel. Bleacher Report dropped an article listing one free agent every single team should go out and sign, and for the Bears, that player was Quinton Spain. Obviously, the Bears missed out on Ryan Bates, the restricted free agent with Buffalo. They matched that contract, so there's still a clear need at guard. You look at this depth chart, you get Lucas Patrick. He's going to play center. You need another guard, though. Cody Whitehair, hopefully he bounces back this year. He can play right or left guard. Maybe he flips to right because Quinton Spain has mostly played left guard throughout his career, so you could move Whitehair over to the right side if you needed to. Spain could play right as well, but he's been better as a left guard, and if you want to bring in a guy like this, you might as well keep him at a position he's comfortable with. PFF graded him out fairly well last year, over 72 overall grade. Pass blocking wasn't great at just under 60. That's like a tick below average according to PFF's grading system. Run blocking was really good, though, well above average at 76.3. Did give up 5 sacks, only had 4 penalties, though. But remember, the Bengals' offensive line was so bad as a whole last year. It's hard to, kind of point to individual guys on whose fault it actually was. Spain was actually one of the better players on that unit. I view this as like a perfect one-year stopgap starter. He can come in, 1-year deal, $3-4 million, be your right guard or left guard, depending on what happens with Whitehair. And, next year, maybe you've drafted a guy this year that you're grooming, or you go out and sign or draft a guy next year to a 2 or 3 year deal. You could go that route as well. But this is like duct tape, right? Bring in a guy for 2022 who's not going to get Justin Fields killed. He'll play fairly well, especially in the run game. And then you go younger at the position in 2023. Should the Bears sign Quinton Spain? Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no? I'd like to see it. I really would. I think this is a good veteran option for cheap, so get your votes in down below. All right, final story here on today's Bears Rumors Roundup. How about drafting wide receiver Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati? I'm going to go 3 smoking Jays on this one. It's hard to say that it's pretty likely that a team is going to draft a specific player, but there's more and more buzz about this, about Pierce to the Bears, because A, I think he's going to fall right into the realm of where the Bears are picking, 39, 48, and 71. He's going to be somewhere in that gap between 39 and 71. Bears need a receiver. He's not going to go round 1, so he'll be in the range of where the Bears could go out and get him. ESPN listed the Bears as the ideal fit for Alec Pierce, and I agree, because A, they'll be able to draft him based on where they're picking, thing, and B, Alec Pierce has good size and speed combination, which is what this offense is looking for. Here's what ESPN's Matt Bowen had to say about a potential fit here. The Bears added veteran wideouts Byron Pringle and Equinemius St. Brown through free agency to pair with Darnell Mooney, but I see a need here to boost a talent-deficient offense around quarterback Justin Fields. And into round 3, Pierce would give them some alignment flexibility as a big target who is at his best on the move, running verticals, overs, crossers, and speed outs. Pierce showed his ability to beat press coverage when he dropped 144 yards on Notre Dame last season. I remember watching that game. He was very, very impressive. I will say this, the one thing I disagree with Bowen, I think Pierce actually goes round 2 now. I think he's risen enough on draft boards that he will go in the second round. So if you're Chicago and you're picking at 48, or if you trade down from 39 to another pick in the 40s or 50s, I think that's probably where you're going to have to go and get Pierce. I don't think he'll fall to 71. Maybe he will because, guys always fall further than we think, and other guys go higher than we think, and there's a lot of receivers. But I think he could be a top 50 pick. Luckily, the Bears have 2 picks in the top 50. Big guy at 6'3", 210, 17 yards a catch last year, had 8 touchdowns for an offense that, was pretty balanced. It's not like they were pass heavy at Cincinnati. The idea of drafting this kid is growing on me more and more every day. Early on in the process, I was like, I think there's better options. Then I saw his combine. Now I've, read even more about the guy, and you hear draft experts saying, he's on the rise. He's a top 50 type of player in this draft. He fits what the Bears want to do. And I'm like, okay, I trust what people are saying about this kid, and I like the big physicality factor and the speed to go along with it. Now, which wide receiver do you want the Bears to draft on day 2? Don't say Chris Olave. He's not falling to the second round. I don't think Treylon Burks is either, although I would love both of those guys in Chicago. Think of the Christian Watsons, the Alec Pierces of the world, the John Mechis, these guys who should go in the second or third round. Who would you like to draft at that position on day 2? Let us know, and we'll see you next time here on Bears Now.